assistant producer at 148 South Street Studio, and here with me today is Kenny Hill, the guitarist of Mars Hill. Thanks
Hello.
so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I mean, you're no stranger to the studio. Mars Hill rehearses right here on this stage.
Yes.
And it wasn't all that long ago that you walked through the door for the first time. What was it about this studio that made you decide, this is the place where I want to record?
Oh gosh, it wasn't the place, it was the people. People had the people were completely solely the reason. The place, it really wouldn't have mattered. It could have been a basement, but with the character and the people and the quality level of the people involved, that's what sold me on it. Oh yeah.
Great. So you and the rest of the Mars Hill band have spent the last couple months recording your first 5 singles right here. You want to tell me a little bit about that process?
Well, it's been a very interesting process. It's been a very professional process. It's been a matter of because we as a group don't necessarily have a whole lot of back time together that we've spent. So we're kind of killing multiple birds with like one stone. We're getting to know each other musically. We're writing and developing songs that haven't even really been songs yet, and then we're kind of rearranging and redeveloping some stuff that's already been in existence. And as well as actually, we've begun to have some fun kind of re-envisioning some other people's material as well. So that's a lot of fun as well.
Great.
Yeah.
So, Kenny, how old were you when you first picked up a guitar?
13. I was one of those kids that didn't have a whole lot of family support. I didn't have a strong support system in my family. Had issues with self-esteem, issues with, just not having a whole lot of really good role models in my life and things like that. Somehow, I mean, like as it happens, I first got turned on to Kiss. I don't know how that happened. It must be all the colors and the explosions and stuff. All the kids love Kiss. And then even now, there's still a thing. But so then once I kind of started to get more of a desire for a little bit deeper musical composition, a little bit more intricate type stuff, I inadvertently got turned on to like Jeff Beck and Pink Floyd and things like that before I was actually even playing guitar. And so I was into like Kiss and then these other rock bands and stuff before ever playing guitar. And then right around when I was 13, 1980, Back in Black came out, AC/DC.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, I happened to hang out with, all my friends were older than me. Everyone I hung out with was like always a couple years older than me because basically they kind of protected me because I used to get kind of, bullied around the neighborhood, and so once I started hanging out with the tough guys, that didn't happen anymore. But one of my friends turned me on to Back in Black, and he had a big Victrola out in the garage, with the turntable. It was his grandparents, whatever. Put the album on there, as loud as it could go. We had the garage doors open. And I heard Back in Black for the first time, and it starts out with the hi-hats. Like, I'm thinking, what am I going to hear? What is about to happen? It's like, it's like, oh my God. I was completely taken. I opened the album, and I'm just staring at Angus Young. It's like, wow. And all I heard was his power. And I seen the conviction and it was something. I'll never forget that picture. Yeah. And it's like that's what I want to do.
So did you have any role models or teachers at that young age?
I didn't really have any role models as far as like around the neighborhood. There was a couple of guys that there was one older dude that worked on guitars and another guy that he had like the neighborhood reputation, like he was like the badass in the neighborhood. And ironically, I never got a chance to even see him play. And every time they would be doing a backyard party, they were either done or whatever, but I never got a chance to see them play. And so there wasn't really anyone, in the neighborhood that was really like a role model. And then the rock band Vendetta moved into my neighborhood from New York. And one of my friends inadvertently met them, and they're like, man, this rock band moved in over on Asbury Park, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, no shit. So we went over. And they introduced me, and I met the guitar player, and I was just completely enthralled, just overwhelmed, enamored by it. It's like, wow, this is it. And so I was like 14, and I had already, basically begged my grandma to get me a guitar. She bought me my first guitar on her birthday in 1980. Yeah, and my first amp at what used to be the music mecca of Michigan. It was Wonderland Music in Dearborn, Michigan.
Would
It's
you say
gone
your
now.
grandma was like one of your first fans?
She wasn't a fan. She was my first supporter, though.
Supporter.
Yeah,
Sure.
she wasn't a fan.
Too loud?
Well, no, she just didn't think that I was going to be able to do much with it without lessons or anything. And,
Yeah.
and you know, she would have paid for lessons, but I didn't want lessons
So-
because it's like, oh, no, no one's going to show me I could do this. I could do this,
Would you say that you were completely self-taught?
Yeah, absolutely. Up until I was about 24. So my first 11 years, I was completely self-taught and basically felt that I had exhausted as far as I could go. Now, mind you, up until that point, I'd already been in original rock bands, toured regionally around the country, already been doing recording, writing original stuff, playing with other cats around town. I've been playing on stage, you know, kind of semi-professionally since 14. You know, so that
so you started playing at 13, and by 14 you were
I was on
semi-pro.
stage. Yeah.
So,
Well, that just means I was on
performing,
stage playing in
being
front of
able
people.
to-
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was anything to
were-
brag about musically, but I mean I was doing it.
But
So.
people knew that this young kid was gonna be good, and
I reckon because they let me get up there. So
Yeah.
they must have thought I mean, I guess if I sounded horrible, they probably wouldn't have wanted me to get up there and play, you know.
Right.
But the first time ever that I was on stage, it's funny. Someone commented to me last week about me playing hard. And the first time I ever played on stage, I broke 2 strings. Like the first song I ever played was also Going Down from Jeff Beck, which happened to be a cover song that they did, Vendetta at the time. And so I had Nicky Buzz was the guitar player, and by the time the song was halfway done, all I knew is I had 2 busted strings, and I was like, what am I going to do? But I got through it, and it was fun. It was my first live experience ever.
So being a professional musician, was that always your goal?
Yes, live has always been what it's been for me. My first experiences with music, other than listening to it, was seeing it done live, not like in a concert, but like being there from behind the scenes, like being part of making it happen. And you know, one of the first experiences, there was actually, when I was 13, there was another, it was one of my best friends, we actually went to school together. And his mom and dad, his mom owned a hair salon, his dad owned a restaurant, and he had a little bit more money, so he was only child. So he had guitars, drums, all kinds of stuff. So he was actually the first band sort of thing, and I played 2 talent shows with him in this little group, and then and that was before I totally kind of gave myself to it, you know. And I think that was just prior. It was right around like I was just kind of getting experience with everything, and then shortly thereafter, then I heard Randy Rhoads, and that was over for me then. I was like, okay, well, not over, it was just the beginning. It was over for that and the beginning of a completely different way of looking at guitar.
So never really had a lesson.
No.
Completely self-taught, yet you are a guitar teacher. And
Yes.
And you teach all ages of guitar. Tell me about that, being a teacher, teaching music.
Yeah, well, once I started to touch on that, once I'd been playing for about 11 years and felt I had exhausted what I could do with my imagination. I could do a lot more stuff, but it didn't make sense. And I got to the point to where it's, all right, I could play anything, but does it really make sense? Why? I need to know why. Why would I play this? Why do I want to play this? What choices do I have? It's like, I've always been about, I can't be pigeonholed. I got to have options. You know what I mean? It's like I got to always have more than one way out, more than one way on, all that kind of stuff. So I saw it at that point. He was a fusion guitarist legend in Detroit, and he's since passed on. But he was my mentor, and he is Mikkel Caldwell, and he taught me music theory at 24 years old. And you know, he had me come over. I called him up. He was listed back in the days of actual white pages and yellow pages books. So he was listed, and I called him, and coincidentally, he didn't live but a mile and a half from me, which was really great. So I called him up and said, hey man, you don't know me, but I've been playing for a while, and you know, I know that I don't know anything, and I need to learn some stuff. And he's like, dude, come on over. So I didn't know it at the time, but he had 2 masters and a bachelor's from Berkeley. So we can have some, you know, some alumni affiliation there. But he took me under his wing and basically became my mentor. He also retired Muay Thai champion, world champion, undefeated. And so he had me come over, and he's like, all right, so play me a major scale. I'm like, what? Yeah, he's like, well, play me a minor scale. I'm like, what? He's like, well, play me something. So I started playing. He goes, all right, you can play. You could definitely play. He said, you're playing in a natural minor. He said, so you need just to learn what you're doing. I said, yeah, that's what I was saying. I just need to learn what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he said, so we're going to take you to Theory 101. And so he took me down to the diatonic scales and said, this is Ionian, this is Dorian, this is Phrygian, this is Lydian, this is Mixolydian, this is Locrian, and here you are back at home. I missed Aeolian. And then Locrian, and then you're back at Ionian. And he said, you learn these, and you learn these in every single key on the guitar. He said, you'll be able to do anything that you want to do. This is the building block. He said, this will take you wherever you want to go. You want to learn to read music? It starts with this. At this point in your life, what you know and can play, and where you're at, you need this.
How do you see music?
Very colorful. You know, I see it as in colors. It's like it's colors and pitches. Pitches match the colors. Last thing I think of is the note. You know, oddly enough, I don't think of the note till I'm actually putting it together.
Right.
It's like it reminds me.
So let's talk about one of the songs, like "Survive."
Yeah.
You start playing a riff and whatever. And you're not thinking about the notes.
That particular song, that's a good song. Well,
What
that
are you
particular
seeing?
song, I guess it's a number of different things because lyrically to me is nothing I have to try to do. You know, what I try to do, ironically, is like the things I don't have to try to do seem to be the easiest and the best and to come out the most natural. And the things that I try to do are like what I want to do and what I try to do are the hardest things to do. You know what I mean? It's ironic. So when it comes, it's like all I have to do to write a lyric is have a theme. I just need a theme. I just need a theme. Just a vibe. You know, it's like what do we want to do? What are we trying to say? What is it? You know, what are we talking about? You know, and unless it's something I'm overwhelmed with, that. Like an example of Survive. Survive is one of those songs that's a number of different elements that came together. The opening riff, the technique, the single note kind of arpeggiated thing, that's an Eric Johnson technique. That's something that once I kind of learned that thing, I loved it. It's like, oh man, this is so cool. So I found myself, I wrote that phrase. Yeah. It's like, all right, so this deserves a song. So it's like, so I kind of built the song around the whole. So let's talk
a little bit about Mars Hill's music. Why does the world need Mars Hill?
The world's broken. It's just so broken. There's just so much despair and so many people, so much inequality and so much injustice.
When people hear Mars Hill's music, what do you hope that they're really hearing?
Hope. Yeah, I hope that they're hearing hope. I hope that they're hearing that there's people that they can relate to. There's people that have been through things that you know, hopefully we can help people feel that they're not alone. You know, that they're going through things that everyone goes through. And even though when we go through things, it seems like we are all alone. It's like if we could be more sensitive to one another and see when someone we know is maybe going through some things and be there. That's what I think. That's what I would really love to see this music do. It's like when you need a friend and you can't get him on the phone. If you could put our music in and it'd do the same thing, that would be fucking huge. Ultimately, that's what I would love our music to do.
I think it will do that for a lot of people. I really do. Kenny, thank you so much for being here with me.
You're welcome. Sorry I'm a little sissy falling apart here, but it means a lot to me.
Thank you for being real with
You're
us
welcome.
today.
You're welcome.
So I really appreciate it. Kenny Hill, Mars Hill.